So here's our review for our second test on voting theory. So we're going to start with stuff we have already been tested on. The first one is plurality, which is who has the most first place votes. So I'm just looking at each column here. P has 18 first place votes, C has 12, M has 10, S has 9, and D has 4 and 2. So D actually has 6 first place votes. You'd add them together, but in the end, obviously P has the most first place votes, and that is our report account. All right, I'm going to start with my P, and my P has 18 first place votes. What's interesting here is everything else was last place. So you had 0 second place votes, 0 third place votes, 0 fourth place votes, and if you add all the columns up, other than 18, 12, 10, 9, 4, and 2, you end up with 37 fifth place votes, and my total answer there is 203. Then I come to C. C had 12 first place votes. C had 14 second place votes. It's second place in the third and fifth column. So 14 times 2. C had 0 third place votes. 0 was in fourth place in the fourth and sixth column, so that's 9 and 2. That's 11 fourth place votes, and it was in last place in the first column, so at 18 fifth place votes. You multiply and add, you get a total of 174. For M, we had 10 first place votes. M had 11 second place votes. M had 0 third place votes. And M had 3 columns where it came in fourth place. So 18, 12, and 4 gives you 34 fourth place votes. It had 0 last place votes. So in that case, we're looking at 168. Let me add them up. S, 9 first place votes. It had 18 second place votes. It had that first column. It had 18 third place votes. The second, fifth, and sixth columns, and that added up to 18, so 18 third place votes. It had 10 fourth place votes, and obviously had 0 fifth place votes. So we're looking at a total of 139. And my D out of combined columns 5 and 6 had 6 first place votes. It had 12 second place votes. It had 37 third place votes, and actually got 0 fourth place votes and 0 fifth place votes. So that total was 141. And we do need to remember lowest score wins here. It's like golf. So my board account winner is S with a score of 139. And remember, you have to put the winner with its score down. That's not an optional thing. All right. Now with runoff, if we recall, we only keep the first 2 top first place vote getters, which in this case was Pepsi, or P. That's what the P actually stood for, was Pepsi. These are sodas. Pepsi, Coke, Mountain Dew, Sprite, and Dr. Pepper. And C with 12 first place votes. So with runoff, if we recall, we're just taking the top 2 first place vote getters, which are P and C, and we're eliminating everything else. So D, M, S, go. D, M, S, go. D, M, S, go. D, M, S, go. D, M, and S. D, M, and S. Obviously, Pepsi keeps its 18 votes. Coke keeps its 12 votes. In the third column, Coke gets those 10 votes. In the fourth column, Coke, even though it's in fourth, it's still above P, gets those 9 votes. Coke gets these 4 votes, and Coke gets those last 2 votes. So 12 and 10 is 22, and 9 is 31, and 4 is 35, and 2 is 37. So by runoff, my winner is Coke with a score of 37. Runoff with elimination, P P had 18, C had 12, M had 10, and S had 9, and D had 6. D goes first. So runoff with elimination, we're doing one at a time. I get rid of all the D's. Now, these 4 votes go to C. These 2 votes go to M, and we do need to reevaluate. That's now 16, that's 12. Now, S has the fewest first place votes. So S goes away. S, and S. These 9 votes go to M. So 9 is at 21. Now I need to reevaluate. These 16 votes go away. Coke goes away. Now, what I need to do here is these votes that went to Coke, those 4, now go to Mountain Dew. Getting rid of C. And these 12 votes that went to C now go to Mountain Dew. So it's at 37. So Mountain Dew wins with a score of 37, or M does. Now, on the test, if you forgot to give away those extra 4 Coke votes, M still would have won with a score of 33. You're okay there. Okay. I can see how someone can easily forget that. That's not really going to cost you. All right, now we're going to move on to pairwise comparison. Okay. In this case, each letter goes up against each letter individually. When you do pairwise comparison, my first step is going to be to add up the votes. 18 and 12 is 30, and 10 is 40. 40 and 9 is 49. 49 and 4 is 53, and 2 is 55. So there's 55 votes. If you divide that by 2, you get 27.5. So you need 28 votes to win. Okay? So each time we do this, we're looking for 28 votes. So I'm going to do Pepsi versus each of the letters. Now, this one can be done pretty quickly. Pepsi wins the first column over C. But then if you notice in the next 5 columns, C wins each one. Okay? So Pepsi ends up with 18 votes. It needed 28 to win. So Pepsi loses to Coke. I like to go across. Therefore, Coke wins over Pepsi. Now, Pepsi we can do relatively quickly. Because P wins the first column over M. But M wins the next 5 columns. So Pepsi ends up with 18 votes. So Pepsi loses to M. M is a winner. Pepsi loses to S. It wins the first column, but S beats it on every other subsequent column. So Pepsi ends up with 18 votes. The Sprite ends up with 37. And finally with D, Pepsi is over D in the first column, but D beats it in every other column. So therefore, D is a winner. Pepsi loses. Once again, I like to go across. Pepsi loses to Coke. Pepsi loses to Mountain Dew. Pepsi loses to Sprite. Pepsi loses to Dr. Pepper. Here, Coke wins over Pepsi. Mountain Dew wins over Pepsi. Like, it's just the opposite. Now we'll do Coke, or C. All right. I already did P versus C, so now I'm going to do M versus C. So I'm going to count my C's. C loses the first column. C wins 12 votes here. Loses to M here. Loses to M here. Beats M here, so now it's at 16. Loses to M on the last column. So if C earns 16 votes, that's a loss, and M wins. C versus S. Loses the first column, wins the second column. It wins the third column, now it's at 22. Loses the fourth column. Wins the fifth column, now it's at 26. Loses the sixth column. It got to 26 votes. It needed 28. So that's a loss, and it's a win for S. C versus D, loses the first column, wins the second, 12 votes. Wins the third, now it's at 22. Loses the fourth, loses the fifth, loses the sixth. 22 is not enough. Loses M versus S. M loses the first column to S, loses the second column to S, wins the third column, it's got 10, loses the fourth, loses the fifth to S, wins the sixth, it ends up with 12 votes. 12 is clearly not enough, so it loses to S. S wins over M. Finally, S and D. S wins here, 18 votes, loses, wins the fourth column, that's now 27 votes, but loses the next two. M, therefore, loses to D. Okay, so M wins over D. All right, finally, S over D wins the first column, loses the second column, loses the third column, wins the fourth, it's at 27, but D wins the last two. 27 is not enough to win. So therefore it loses to D and D wins. I think I made a mistake going over, I may have mixed something up. It was M over D, I'm sorry about that. So D wins the first column, D wins the second, so M against D just wins these middle two columns. M gets 19 votes, that's not enough, I apologize. That's why M loses to D, I think I mixed up with S. In the end, okay, now I need to write the records. P went 0 and 4, C went 1 and 3, M went 2 and 2, S went 3 and 1, and D went 4 and 0. So if I do my pairwise comparison winner, that's how you write it. You write the letter with its record. D went 4 and 0. When you add these up, there were 10 matches. You should have 10 wins and 10 losses. 0 and 1 is 1, and 2 is 3, 3 and 3 is 6, 6 and 4 is 10. 4 and 3 is 7, 7 and 2 is 9, 9 and 1 is 10, 10 and 0 is 10. It should always match up that way.